Florida. One of them being Mr. G, George Smiley,
Yes, yeah.
friend of the show. And it's funny because when we talk, there's people there are people that'll go back and forth in the comments and say, he's 66 years old. What's he doing? What I tell them is, you do know who trains him? Charles Rosa. Charles, what can you tell me about George?
Man, George is a stand-up guy, man. I absolutely love him, man. He comes in, he's probably the oldest guy that comes in and trains and is serious about fighting. I have some guys that I train for self-defense, some guys I train for different reasons, to boost their confidence. But George comes in and he tells me, I want to fight. This is what I want to do. And he's very confident that he can beat these guys. And man, like, there's a couple things that I have him coming in and like I'm like, okay, we'll work the bag. And he always wants to work harder. And that's like my favorite thing about him. Usually you'd have to hold back on somebody 60 plus years old. You're like, you got to kind of make it a little bit elementary, the training, like, okay, well, today we're just gonna do this or that. But man, I say we're gonna grab the 10-pound ball, pick it up, slam it, sprawl, shadow box, go to the bag. We do circuits. He's like, oh, I want the 50, I want the 100-pound ball. I'm like, dude, I can't even pick up the 100-pound ball. He's like, no, that's the one I want. And we go gets it, and he's slamming it, and he's working really hard. And that's something, for me, I don't think I've ever told him this, but for me, it's like an inspiration to look at someone like that, that's his age and is able to, still have such a passion and a love for the sport and to do what he loves, and still comes in, he puts in the work. And I'm sure, his body hurts some days, and I'm sure stuff like that. But if I look at him, if I'm having a hard day in the gym, I'm like, man, I'm on, 3 days training camp, I'm dieting, I'm doing this. And then I see him come in the gym with the energy he has. I go, man, I have no excuses. This guy's 67 years old. He's coming in, he's putting in the work he's doing the same type of circuits that I'm doing. Like, I have no excuse, man. It just gives me extra boost of confidence. So it helps me probably just as much as I help him.
And what do you take out of that when you're seeing a guy like that do something on that? And I'm saying it on that level because he's getting trained by some of the best. Your gym, tremendous fighters there, from the head coach down to you, to everybody. So, what do you take out of that, personally for yourself, when you're seeing him train and putting the work in? And are you ever worried about someone at that age doing that? And I'm not,
Yeah,
age
no,
shaming anyway.
no, 100%. Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing is when he tells me, like, oh, I want to fight this guy, I'm like, well, listen, just like in everything, just like when I have a guy who's his first day, who's never trained before, this 18-year-old kids come in and they say, man, I want to fight. And I'm like, listen, we can, how long is it going to take? What's this? And I go, well, realistically, we could put you against, a guy that works at Walmart that's never trained a day in his life, and that would be fine. So but with someone like George, if we could find somebody that is his age and, his skill level and stuff like that, and that, I think it would be the best case scenario. Like, you obviously can't put him in there with like a guy that's, fighting in the UFC or something. It's just, it doesn't, even though he would do it. That's the thing about him.
Yeah.
He's a madman. Like, he'll do whatever I said. Like, you fighting this guy, like, you could put him against friggin' the champion of the world. You put him against Brock Lesnar, he's gonna fight the guy. And that's why I respect him so much. But that's a job as a coach, and a job as a trainer is to be able to protect your guys and make sure you put them in there. That's a fair fight. And that's, if he does end up doing this and we get to do it, I think that's the number one priority, is safety and being able to do it against somebody that is, it's a fair fight. That's someone that's his, weight class, his size. Because that's, I definitely don't, want to see anybody get hurt. I mean, this is the hurt business, and this fighting is a tough thing. So but he's asking me to help him get ready and have him train hard, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm training him like a fighter. I just, as far as, I'm not exactly the manager, don't know what he's going to do, but I'm sure there's other guys out there that are willing to scrap, and you just got to find him the right guy.
And that would be most likely at the Masters level, the Masters
Yes,
division.
yeah, yeah. They do that in ringside, and that's, I think, a perfect
Yes.
example. Like, you guys are sponsored by ringside. It must be very nerve wracking when ringside. My uncle told me, hey man, there's this guy that's 70 years old that's still fighting in the ringside tournaments. He's told me stories about other legends in the ringside tournaments, and I'm like, so it's something you guys are familiar with. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, and what I want to quickly turn to that right now. Your uncle Tom the